podcast playground where podcasters play. This is Myron Mitchell, and we're here with Dr. Nicks. How you doing today, Mr. Nicks?
All is well, sir. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to join you on the playground.
Yeah, it's the playground. This where we ask questions and we try to know a little bit more about each other. What we've been through, what we're going through, what I could do to help you, what you can do to help me. Big things I've heard about you. Big things. I just met you, but in knowing you this short period of time, I feel like I've learned, not saying a lot about you, but I've learned somewhat what type of person you are. And you are a person full of energy, full of charisma, and full of trying to put back what you're learning. So in doing that, you have this after school thing where you're being a mentor. So I want to ask you, what does that mean to you, being a mentor?
A mentor, if I could just use an example, right? I ran for public office, Myron, and I was walking through Winn-Dixie with my oldest daughter, and because I canvassed the community, boots on the ground, door knocking, just meeting folks. I call it meeting neighbors and making friends. Mm-hmm. That's how I looked at campaign. Like you're meeting a neighbor while also making a friend.
Correct.
And so when folks would see me in the grocery store with my family or with my children, they'll come up to me and speak to me. So I asked my oldest daughter, I said, what do you think about when we go places that folks will come to your father to ask me for advice or to ask me what I think about this and that? She said, well, that's a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. And she was 14 at that time. Right. And I'm like, that's a lot of responsibility. And I'm like, maybe she's getting this.
Right.
That's how I look at mentoring. Mentoring is an aspect of having influence, impact, something that's going to be with that person long standing and more than likely long after you're no longer physically present in that person's life.
Right.
And how can you make an impact or an impression that's going to, you may not ever get the ROI or the return on investment,
right.
But how do you give them your best, knowing that they may not always give you their best?
Okay.
But the end result is to their benefit.
Okay. I got a question under that. Because mentoring is something that it's got to be like a mindset. What happened in maybe in your growing up or your being an adult that said, I need to do this? Because I've felt in some ways that I mentor people by the way I talk. Like I don't want to do it, but it's some people who I talk to on a daily basis who I feel like I mentor, but I don't know if I can mentor 30, 40, 50 people. I'm not sure about that. What put it in your heart and your mind that I can do this?
Great question, right? The way that I teach our children is I would lead with a question, or the Socratic method. The Socratic method is leading by a question. So if you have a group of children in line, who is the leader? Mm-hmm. Who would you say is the leader in a line?
The line leader, the person in front.
Okay. All right. So, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Mm-hmm. But if there's 3 people in line, the first person gets off track. Are they really leading in the right direction?
No, because they don't really know what direction to go in.
But they're still the line leader, but they're just not leading by example.
Right.
They're not leading in the right direction, but they're in the front of the line.
Right.
And I think that's how society grooms leadership, is you can be in the front, but you don't have to be going the right direction.
As long as you're in the front.
As long as you're in the front. That does not certify leadership.
No.
So I used to always say, well, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And then my stepfather, who I call my father, he shifted the program, and he said, we need to shift from trying to training.
Mm.
The Bible doesn't say try Jesus.
Right.
It say commit.
Mm-hmm.
It don't say try a child. It says train up a child in the way that they should go, and providing them experiences and safe places. It doesn't mean that a child won't get off track, but you're giving them an opportunity to learn in a safe environment, but at the same time be able to correct when they're getting out of line.
Correct.
Now, the person who's behind the line leader is also a leader, because if they get off track, they can take the portion of the line with them in a totally different direction than the person who's in the front.
Right.
So, and a lot of times just being alert and aware and understanding that you never know when you are the center of influence. And when you are the center of influence, you are the leader in that moment. So what I did was I had to reprogram our children, and Levante kindergarten, I put him in front of the class, and I had the class line up, right? So he was in front of the line, and I told everybody to turn around. I said, well, where are you at now, Levante? He says, I'm in the back of the line. I said, I want you to understand something. In football, the person in the back of the field is called the safety. And I'm going to make you the safety. So the safety is one of the most important people in the line, because their job is to make sure nobody gets left behind. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. That's my job, to make sure nobody gets left behind.
That's a unique take. I've never really thought about it that way, about a person from the front can move to the back as the safety, which is in football, which is 100% correct.
But if you've ever played organized sports, you're going to be the center of influence sometime. MVP, I think, is sometimes so deceptive, because it only goes to the person who the camera picks up.
Okay, hold on. I got a question I want to ask you. I want to hold that thought.
Okay.
You said sports. You teach martial arts, which is an individual sport. Is that correct?
All right.
So wait. Let me ask you a question. So, from a person who's been in a team structure, and they're learning team things from a person who's an individual who's doing martial arts, are there any discrepancies on the way they learn discipline, or any way where they provide it for their teammates or individually? Would you teach that or mentor that any differently?
All right. So, I coached a young man, Shotgun Shamari Walker, here locally in cage fighting. He was a two-time amateur 205 champion in cage fighting. And I would bring him to elementary schools with his belts and let the kids take pictures with the champ. Mm-hmm. So I would ask him a question in front of the kids. I said, Shotgun, who fought in the cage? I did, sir. I said, that's great. Shotgun, who won the title? I did, sir. Great. But who helped you train? The team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So would you say that you would have won the title if it wasn't for the team? No, sir. So who do you thank? When I won the belt, I had to thank everybody. Mm-hmm. Why did you thank them? Because they helped me get to where I am. Mm-hmm. So even though you're fighting for yourself, you're not fighting by yourself. Okay. And that is life.
And yeah, it is. It is. It is, because a lot of people feel like they fighting by themselves, because they don't feel like they have the support of others.
All right, so I'm going to jump ahead of you, Myron, and then I'm going to come right back.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So I'm 43 years old.
Yeah.
I was a college president for a university at the age of 26. At that time, I had not completed my master's degree. Mm-hmm. And I was hiring people with PhDs 2 and 3 times my age. And they had to answer some 26 years old young black man without a mustache.
Right.
And they want to know, how did I get this position? And I want to know why they're not listening.
Right.
So it forced me to find a way to communicate with them to where they understood I'm here to help. Whether you like me or not, I'm here to help. Because I need what you got to help empower the next generation. And how can I convince you that I'm in this position to help you help us? Because I can't change the fact that you're older. You can't change the fact that I'm younger. But how can we work together to get this goal accomplished?
And most of the time, it's going to be that first class. Without that conversation, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be a clash.
So that is how I feel when I look at educating some of our black youth. If I go into an all-white school or an all-white classroom, immediately I get cooperation. Typically, when I work with our youth, especially if they come from high trauma communities or high trauma backgrounds, the first thing that happens is you have what you would call confrontation. Then you will have a conflict. Then you will have cooperation. But you don't start off with cooperation first.
Right.
You typically get cooperation after the confrontation. Then after a conflict, then you get cooperation. And if you know up front that there's a likelihood that these are the steps to getting this done, then why everybody act so surprised when it happened?
Because they don't want to see the steps done. People look at things and following steps, and no, I don't want to do it like that. This is the old way. We don't want to do it the old way. Some people say they don't want to do it the new way. The old generation, the new generation, it's a fight here. What do you say to that? What do you say to people trying to say the younger generation they're just not finding out. They're saying they're woke, but they're just finding out what's going on. And so they still need the mentors.
Everybody needs mentors. And a lot of my
even people of age. That's not
first of all, I don't think anybody grows out of mentorship. I was listening to Bishop Jakes in one of his sermons, and he was talking about, man, I don't know everything about AI, but it's a 25-year-old that could teach me so much. Why would I not want to listen to what he's got to share with me when he spent way more time in this discipline than I have? I mean, okay, why wouldn't I want to listen to Warren Buffett on investments?
Right.
If this is his niche, his discipline, and his mastery, it behooves me to lean in. I also want to trail back because you said support.
There you go.
All right, you said support earlier, and I had someone reach out to me today to say, would you mentor me? And I'm like, mentor, you successful? You're like, nah, I don't think the way you think, and I'm not doing what you're doing. So, and I look at mentoring as a responsibility. So I'm looking at this thing again, and I said, okay, I want you to understand 2 things. These are 2 totally different things, but they sound the same. One is suggestions, and one is support. Suggestions are, this is what you need to do. This is what you should do. This is what you ought to do. As a mentor, I won't ever do that. I will offer support. Support sounds like, this is what I would like to help you with.
Right.
This is what I believe is the best course of action, and I'm going to see if I can get such and such to partner with you in that area for a period of time until you get your feet under you. So basically, support is predicated on how well you can articulate and identify with your own personal need. And then you have to be willing to say, I need help.
Right.
So, but when you're working with folks with high trauma, they don't know how to ask for help.
Right.
And then a lot of times they look at help as providing money, but money may not necessarily be the help that they need. What they need is to find out how they can better track and manage data.
Right.
And the more data that you are able to track and manage, the more dollars you should be able to accumulate.
Right. I wanted to ask this question. With the single family homes that we have so much of right now, we have mothers, a lot of mothers, single mothers raising sons. And one of the things that have become very noticeable in 2024-25 is emotional intelligence. And a woman can't teach a man the proper emotional intelligence that he needs to use all the time. I'm not saying she can't, but I'm just saying a man could teach him more. How do you look at that when you are mentoring or teaching your after-school program or martial arts even? How do you take that in consideration when you come to that?
All right, I have women who have a female spouse bring their sons to me and say, I need you to teach my son how to be a man. I need your help, coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have 2-parent homes, father and mother, where I have fathers that reach out to me and say, I need you to talk to my son. So whether it's a lesbian couple or a heterosexual couple, when they are able to identify with the services that we're able to provide, that's when I'm able to help, because they're able to identify with the service. But if they're not able to identify with the service, then they're not going to see the value in what we bring or could offer their child. Mm-hmm. But when folks typically bring their children to our program, they know what they're getting. They know what to expect. Mm-hmm. And I want to be very clear. When I work with any child, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of any type of persuasion, the first thing we teach them is everything begins and ends with respect. Mm-hmm. And if we can't move past that lesson, then you're not going to hear all the other lessons, because everything begins and ends with respect. You got to be able to work with people who are different than you. But then at the same time, you have to be able to accept the fact that you're not going to win every conflict. You're not going to like the way it feels. And this is a safe space to cry. But it ain't no use in cussing nobody out, because why should you disrespect me because you're not getting your way?
Right.
And these are things as far as conflict and resolution that a parent may not have the time, the energy, or the resources to do at home. Mm-hmm. And that's where we come in. Another thing that I've noticed is that with certain males, especially when I work with some of our challenged boys, parents are trying to give them a beta command instead of an alpha command. So, for example,
okay, go ahead. What's a beta command?
All right, so a beta command is, I'm Nahshon. Nahshon, would you just sit down in your seat? And Nahshon is saying, no, I'm not going to sit down. And then the teacher is saying, I got to call your mom. And I'm saying, why are you calling my mom? You picking on me. Mm-hmm. You trying to get me put out of school. You trying to get me in trouble. Mm-hmm. And the teacher's saying, no, I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but you won't sit down. And then I tell my mom, you never told me to sit down. Mm-hmm. You asked me, would I have a seat? Like I had an option, and I'm telling you, I don't want to sit down. If you wanted me to sit down, I'm an alpha male. You got to give me an alpha command, and you got to tell me, Nahshon, sit down.
Yeah, that's a breakdown. And who's having that conversation though?
I'm having that conversation. You're not finna
right.
demonize this child because you don't know how to communicate with them.
Okay, so that's the emotional intelligence that you bring.
It's the human intelligence. That is a human. That's a human. Mm-hmm. That 5-year-old is a human.
But the new way is, and the reason why I hear you and I understand that, because my daughter does the same thing. And I don't know what's in these, if it's something new, but my mom never asked me anything. Go do this, go do that. go do this, go do that. It was never do you want to, and that's the way that's the new parenting.
So I can't speak to parenting. I'm sharing that there are certain individuals where beta commands
Right.
work.
Okay, I get you.
And then it's not disrespectful. Because another thing that I've noticed, even with because I work with what you call EBD, emotional behavior disorder, ODD, opposition or defiant disorder, ADHD. I've worked with some of the most severe cases, even when it comes to autism. The biggest thing for me is awareness. Are you aware what you're doing?
But where do you learn awareness? Because it's people can be ignorant, but ignorance is not because some of it is not because you don't want to know. It's because you don't know where to get the information from to know.
Well, I'm here to help. Our program is here to help. Our team is here to help. Team Nitro is here to help. We have the best of the best. And I want to hire the best. I want to work with the best. I want to train the best. I want every single child to have a fighting chance at success. I need them to identify with their learning style. Are you audio? Are you visual? Are you hands-on or tactile? Are you Montessori? Or are you like Malcolm X? Are you like George Washington Carver? Are you like Ben Carson? Are you like Frederick Douglass, which are autodidact? The only way they get the information is if they teach themselves.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a question. I want to give out some names of prominent leaders, and I want you to give me in one word that you feel describes them.
Okay.
I'm gonna start out with Martin Luther King Jr. What one word describes him to you as a leader?
Inspiration.
Malcolm X.
Revolutionary.
Okay. How about Fred Hampton?
Disruptor.
Nahshon Nicks.
Initiator.
I got one more for you. Let's see. Tupac.
Prophetic.
I want to touch a little bit on the political side.
Okay.
I want to touch on. I want you to let the people know what you ran for, and what you might run for in the future.
Okay. I ran for city council here in Jacksonville, Florida. City council is like an alderman, a commissioner in certain cities. Some folks, they may live in a county municipality or a city municipality. So the term alderman, commissioner, or city council person or city councilman can be used interchangeably, right? But here in Jacksonville, we use the term city council. And the reason being is because I was working in some of our most adverse communities. And with those adverse communities, I wanted to know by one side of the street, the lights worked. The other side, they didn't work. One side of the street were potholes. The other side of the street, there weren't potholes. One side of the street, there was blight, meaning overgrown shrubs, bushes, trees, abandoned houses. And then another side of the street, it's like a oasis of beautification, palm trees. It actually looked like Florida. It looked like the best Jacksonville had to offer. And then if it's the same city, if it's the same tax dollars, then why do communities look different? How come this community had a Publix? This community had a Harvey's. This community had a Target. This community had a Dollar Tree. Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? This community had a Chick-fil-A. And this one had an off-brand name. Like, why is it like that? And how can we make sure that the quality of life is the same throughout the city? And just looking at different things from a local impact, because I believe that all politics is local. I've also ran for a school board, and I would say that I did not win the seat, but I was able to get my message across. My number one reason for running for school board is because they were talking about closing 30 public schools. And that's asinine to me. Meaning, like, who closes a school?
Right.
And when you got all these folks that aren't reading on grade level, you got all these folks that aren't doing math on grade level. You got all these folks that aren't graduating with standardized high school diplomas, but they're graduating with a certificate of completion. So you would think we need more education instead of less education.
Right.
And then, and that was my number one thing, was fighting to keep our public schools open. At that time, they were looking to close 30 schools. By the time my campaign was over, they were looking at only closing 3. So even though I did not win the seat, I believe that the message was reverberated throughout the city, and there was some buy-in to be able to say, hold up, maybe we're moving too fast. Let's look at some other things. Like, for example, folks talk about, well, lottery goes with public education. No, lottery goes to post-secondary education. Post-secondary education is when you're going to college. So basically, when you're looking at the lottery dollars, is typically for those that have already completed kindergarten through 12th grade. So it's not going into Head Start. It's not going to early childhood education. It's going into education after you've already gotten a high school diploma. But if you don't make it there with a standardized high school diploma, and the reason why I keep saying standardized high school diploma is because with a certificate of completion, you're not going to be able to enroll in advanced studies.
I want to ask this question too. I had this question. Are you going to run again?
As I'm going to say this, my life's purpose can be found in Isaiah 1:17. It says, learn to do what is right. Seek justice and defend the oppressed. And if there is an opportunity that I feel like the Lord has put within my heart as a mandate, and the people also find ways to support, I would run again. And I can't say what office I would run for at this time, but I really look at myself as I'm here to serve.
Right.
It's not running to be running. It's running because we see a need that is either has been addressed or it has not been a coalition of the willing to actually execute to see it from start to finish. And that's something like here on a local level, you typically see the same folks just bounce around from office to office. It's like recycle, reuse, and rethread. Like there isn't a ton of fresh blood, fresh ideas coming back into political offices.
And that's kind of what I wanted to ask. With there not being a lot of people coming in and out, some of the issues just get washed around. They don't think about it. They just hear, and it's just like reverb, like blah blah blah. One of the issues that I would just wanted to ask about is, I don't know if it's getting as much attention as it needs to be, is it being a food desert on the north side. Like certain areas, like you have to go miles and miles just to find a grocery store.
That was an issue, Myron, that I also addressed. And the term that I was trying to use is co-op. And I'm going to trail back, right? I wrote an op-ed in the Florida Star newspaper. The difference, it was public speakers versus public leaders. And when you brought up Martin Luther King, you brought up Fred Hampton, you brought up Malcolm X, you brought up some folks that I revere and I look at as a zeitgeist or a point of reference. Like, all right, what were their successes? What were their handicaps? What were they good at? What were they bad at? These were people that were big on organizational leadership and putting sustainability together. Malcolm X was talking about 4 pillars. Like, you got to have a grocery store, a hospital, a school. I mean, you got to have somewhere to work. You got to have somewhere to be educated. You got to have somewhere to eat. Like he was talking about these places, because it takes a community effort. It's not all based on one individual.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we look at it from a hero's mentality when everybody else is practicing group survival.
Right. I feel that I got one more question I wanted to ask you. In one interview, I heard you speak on that the elders were need to pry the baton from the hand, like they weren't just handing the baton off. And I guess I heard someone listening to it, and their response was, yeah, we are, because we don't know what you guys are going to do with it. Could you explain what you meant, and can you like say what you're going to do with the baton once you get it?
All right. So one of the things that I teach people is that people can only perform to the level that they've been prepared. So to say, if I gave you the baton, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to do the same thing you did with it, unless you show me something different.
Right.
But if you die with the baton in your hand, did we really progress?
Right.
Or are we starting from ground zero all over again?
Right.
So you have people who start below ground. You have people who start at ground level. And then you have people who start above ground.
Right.
But if you gave me the baton while you were still here to coach me as a mentor,
right,
it's a whole lot easier for you to coach me while you're alive than it is to coach me when you're gone.
Right.
But if all you tell me about is your success, a real mentor is going to tell you how many times they lost on the mat.
Right.
They're going to tell you about how many times they had to tap.
Right.
They're going to tell you about, man, it was blood, sweat, and tears. like, don't. This is not fake press. This ain't fake news. Like, this really came with sacrifice. Sacrifice comes before success in life and in the dictionary.
Right.
Like this is not. We romanticize so much stuff, and because we romanticize it, we think that change is favorable automatically. No, chance favors the prepared mind.
Prepared mind.
And my goal is to use every resource that God has given me, including this opportunity, to hopefully charge somebody to say, what am I doing with myself?
Right.
You know what I mean? Where is my playground at?
Right. Right. Right.
And I'm also a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And this is what I tell people. If you waiting until Sunday to preach the gospel, Jesus ain't called you to preach.
I know that's right.
You ain't got it, because when you got a fire in you, you preaching even when you don't have a pulpit.
Right. And that's the thing, what I see about you, it's like every time I see you, that's another one question. Like, I'm gonna ask you this last question, then we're gonna go.
This is the last question. You could see
but,
he back missionary back.
Yeah. hey, missionary Baptist for real. You seem so on point every time I see you or speak, or every time I've seen you speak on video. You seem so on point. What is it that you do to prepare to be so on point? Do you read a lot? Do you listen to the news? Do you meditate? Do you self-reflect? What is it that gets you to stay on point with every situation that you have to speak in? You have to show up in. What keeps you so prepared?
I don't want anybody to ever feel hopeless. I don't ever want somebody within my reach to feel hopeless. And even if they did feel hopeless, they damn sure ain't gonna feel alone.
Right.
And I want to be able to offer something outside of just some inspiration. I would like to be able to bring some substance and support with me.
That makes a lot of sense. And we could feel it. It feels it comes through you. It comes through you that you have a point to prove, not just what you're saying, but by your actions. So I want to thank you for coming here and expressing and being on the playground. And you're welcome to come back anytime you want. You know, this is our playground. It's actually your playground too now. So, you have any last words that you want to say, Mr. Nicks?
Myron, thank you so much for this opportunity. This has been phenomenal. If I can, please call out my website.
Go ahead.
Because we are serving over 183 youth in the city of Jacksonville. Our goal is to continue to build leaders and build character through martial arts and mentoring. But it is an all hands on deck effort. These services and this program can be duplicated in other cities and states, but it does take resources to make it happen. If you would consider volunteering, partnering, or sponsoring, please visit our website, www.teamnitromma.com/get involved. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
God bless.
God bless.